Go. Yes, we are live in the Holy Grail Experience Facebook group. Welcome, Krishna.
Thank
to
you.
this first live interview that we plan to do together. I see everything is working. That's great. To just get really excited, to get everybody really excited, please share why you are doing all these things and writing a book, all this research. That's really important for you. Please share a little bit about yourself so everybody who doesn't know you yet can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. Oh, well, that's a very loaded. You just gave me rather a lot to cover. But the reason I'm writing the book, it's been sort of a lifelong journey that began about 25 years ago when I was in India, and many things were given to me or came to me about the life of Jesus, and I was not a Christian. I was on a different spiritual path. So it was sort of odd to suddenly have the whole Jesus phenomena just sort of land in my lap. But the stories just felt very familiar to me. And I felt like it was family in some way. And I felt this deep calling from my spirit to find the true story of Jesus and of Mary Magdalene and of the feminine divine and what really went on in history over the last 2,000 years. And as I went deeper and deeper into that, I came across so many things that were not jiving with what we've been told in society, in school, in church, by our families, in the media. So many things just didn't add up. And so I just felt so cool to get to the bottom of all of it. So I started writing the story about 20 years ago, actually. I started writing. And this, the book just kind of unfolded very organically, very naturally. And the further that I go into it, the deeper I go into the experiences of the Magdalene and of Jesus. Honestly, I'm utterly enthralled by the book. I feel like on many levels, I feel like I've been blessed with a vision of the book, where literally as I'm writing the chapters, the words on each page, I'm literally seeing, through my third eye, I'm literally seeing and viewing what's going on and what's being said, and I'm just translating it and writing it with these hands of mine here. So it's really, really magical for me, because while it's going on, I'm utterly enthralled. It's like watching a movie. It's like being in the Game of Thrones, where you're really watching, but it's not like a fable like Game of Thrones is. These are real life people of history. So it's even more enthralling. And you get to know these characters and you fall in love with them and you feel like they are your family, and you just, I can't let go of these people. They've just kind of clung to my soul in some amazing way. And I'm so grateful for it. I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's enlivening me in my spirit. It's giving me a sense of purpose. I feel like there's so many people since we started the community page. You can see we've just had so many people from all around the world just loving every one of my posts and really appreciating the things that I'm sharing and the first 2 chapters. And so it just makes all my work really, just incredibly worthwhile. It shows me that I'm on the right path and I'm doing what the Lord wants me to be doing. So I'm very driven, it's just coming from within.
Yeah, I think everybody can feel that. And I think also when you're describing the way you're writing, you're seeing everything. And then if we look at all the comments from people that read the first and second chapter, the unedited version, you heard like people are really like there and kind of attending. So it's really like everything you see, you can also put it on paper, and that's really, really interesting and really excited for everybody to like go back into history and take another look around, right? And someone that like devoted her life and so many years on doing so much research, and now, yeah, sharing that finally, right? How does it feel for you to like finally write this book after doing all this research, having all this conversation with different people, meeting people, asking questions? how does it feel for you to now finally? It is a very special moment, right? So how does it feel for you?
I feel like it's been a lifetime of preparation, perhaps many lifetimes of preparation for this. I feel like the knowledge and the truth and whatever it is that divine spirit wants to have spoken to the world is being sent through me while I'm writing. So to say that I'm ecstatic when I write is the understatement of the century. I'm literally ecstatic when I'm writing. I've got chills all over my body. I'm sometimes weeping. I feel just incredibly alive in my spirit. And then sometimes for hours I'll be writing like that, and then I realize, oh, my body is just suffering and struggling so much. So then I have to get up and move around and get distracted. And then I end up, having to take space from the book for a day or two before I can go back into it, just to sort of physically recover. Mm-hmm. Channeling experience. So it's really miraculous is what I'm going to say. I feel like this is my life work coming to its head. So it's the beginning of my life, if you like. It feels like a whole new section of my life at this point.
Love that. So everybody knows, like, there are moments in life that you're like, okay, this is where I worked really hard for lots of challenges you had. And I'm really curious, like you must have had some really big challenges before, like, coming to this moment, right? And I just want to ask you if there's something you would like to share about, like, something that you were at a moment in your life that you were like, I'm going to give up. I'm done with it. I just have to let it go. I have to do something different, right? Because in 20 years, you always have like some, like, multiple experiences that you might find yourself saying, like, okay, hey, I'm going to quit. I'm done with it. Let someone else do it. Leave me alone. This is not me. This is not for me. Can you share something about that?
Well, I never felt like I could quit the book because the book wouldn't let me quit. I felt like the divine, whatever the divine is for people, divine God and goddess would not let me give up on this book. It just kept coming up for air. It kept coming forward to me in deeper and deeper layers where I had to move forward, whether it was coming in dreams or visions or books that would land on my lap where I went, oh my God, I didn't know that. And then you include it in the book. I'll give you an example. So right now I'm just finishing up. I'm in the last 4 chapters of the book right now. I'm just finishing them, this week. And so last night I was writing a section where Magdalene has gone into the heavens and she's viewing the heavens for the first time. And it's very, very visual when I'm writing it. I'm writing what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing. And she comes across this beautiful old man with eyebrows and a beard that was so long that it flowed down into the river. And he was meditating on a lotus flower that was blooming. And he was speaking these truths to her. And he was saying, I want to reveal the heavens to you. Now look up to the sky and behold the wonders of what really is happening in the universe. And this great battle ensued between the demons that were coming up from the hells, with all their serpents and all their creatures and all their angels were coming up against them. And I watched this incredible battle take place between heaven and hell. And I'm literally sitting there on the edge of my seat, narrating what I'm seeing. It was so incredible. So, the story just keeps changing and moving and going in other directions that I never know where it's going to take me next. I'm just flowing with the spirit of it, I guess. So it's very unique. It's wonderful. I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, it's really, really special. Like, I think a lot of writers write this way. What do you think? Like, right, there's just something coming in. It's not like a lot of thinking. It's more like trying to feel and then just
experience.
Get it on paper, right?
I don't think that if you want to write a good book, it's not cerebral at all. It has to come from the heart. It has to come from a vision, from something that you're seeing and experiencing firsthand as if you are actually there. Then you can translate it in a way that people can relate to it. They're not bored by it. They're enthralled by it because you take them with you. if you're not seeing it and you're just writing words on a page, then it's not going to take anybody anywhere, and people will put those books down.
Yeah. And that's also what, like I said before, that's also what, like, the comments you're getting, right, from everybody that's reading first and the second chapter. So for everybody that's looking right now, I see there some people looking at us like live. We already have a lot of questions we asked for before via email and also in the Facebook group. So I'm going to ask you some questions from people, but everybody who is here live right now, please, if you have some questions, this is your time to answer your to ask your questions and to get them answered, because Krishna has been doing like a research for like a lot of years. So if there's something that's like maybe doesn't feel right or something, and you want to get some more information, more in-depth information, please feel free to ask your questions, and we will try to answer all the questions that are coming in. So I see, we have Valerie here online says, hey Krishna. We have Margaret online. We have Carolyn Winter, who has been asking a lot of questions that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes. So amazing that all these people are online. So more people will join in a few minutes. Let me get to the first question. The first question I have here is about Mary Magdalene. And the question is like, what inspires you about Mary Magdalene? Because you wrote a book like from like her experience, right? So what inspires you when you write about it, and when you're seeing all these experiences, what inspires you that you're seeing from her?
She's a fascinating woman in history. First of all, for any woman to be called publicly a prostitute for 2,000 years when one isn't a prostitute it's such a disgraceful thing to add to somebody's name when someone was perhaps one of the holiest women that walked the earth. So I just felt the injustice of her story very deeply it was like a burning in my soul, where I just felt like I had to figure out what was going on and make right the story. So it was a quest that I went on, I guess. And of course, in the uncovering of the Mary Magdalene story, there are many stories in history of women who were persecuted or wronged by history, which have been misrepresented. And Magdalene is the first for me. Therefore, I consider her the most important woman, because she is such a key player in the Jesus story. And still today, Jesus is the most famous Jewish man in history. You know, if Jewish people choose to say that, you know, he's a failed Messiah, then, you know, I say, what's failed about him? Show me one thing that's failed about him. He's still the most famous man in history, and he was Jewish. So I don't see how they can attach that to his title, you know.
Interesting. And I see some questions coming in. But are there times for you, Krishna, that you like share things like online, and you're like also touching these like you're touching things that people have been thinking for a long time, right? And are you sometimes scared of like what people saying, or how do you feel about that? Because there's we see it, right? We see a lot of people like hating, and yeah, maybe not like. How do you feel about that?
I feel great about it. You know, it's like you throw something beautiful out into the water, and it's going to some of the dirt from the bottom of the pond is going to come up for cleansing. And there are some people who are so stuck in the way that they think that they're not ready for this information. So for me, you know, I just set them aside. You know, it's like whatever, you know, it's just like you can see the mentality of some people. Their hatred clouds their love, and it clouds their ability to even think outside of the box, even slightly. And I feel sorry for them. So, you know, but then there's so many people who are loving, you know, the book and loving what I'm saying, and are really thirsty for the truth. That really, honestly, that the small amount of people who are the haters, there's going to be haters no matter what you do. You know, if you put a smiley face up on Facebook, someone's going to criticize you for it. So what you're going to do, you got to keep smiling anyway.
Love that. I love that. Okay, so I see a comment coming in. Let me check that. From Joseph Spencer. He's saying, "Hello, Krishna. I love the first chapter. I'm from Oklahoma, but I live in West Virginia now. I wish you great success with the book. I feel that it's time for mankind to know what happened next after the crucifixion. As many may as Moses was led to write the first 5 books, you are evidently given to write the next story. God bless you and lots of love." What a nice comment from Joseph Spencer.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So questions are coming in. Caroline asked, has probably Mary Magdalene do act today for people who pray her?
I don't really understand that question.
I also don't. His Mary Magdalene do act today for people who pray her? I don't think.
I guess the question is, if people are praying to Mary Magdalene, is she helping them? Do you think that's what the question might be?
I think so, but Caroline, please clarify what you exactly want to ask.
Yeah.
Then we have one question from Valerie. Valerie asks, how did writing this book change you, the dynamics of your family? That's a great question from Valerie. How did...
Hello, Valerie. She's a very dear friend of mine from Vermont. And she is very connected to this Jesus story, immensely so. She needs to write a book about her life. How did this book change me? Oh my God, it changed me completely. I mean, it's like sitting in a room with 42,000 mirrors facing you. When I was writing this book, that's how I felt. I felt like every inch of myself that was hidden or not authentic or not healed came up for attention. And I had to authentically look at myself and go, wow, I really need to change this, or I really need to change that. And I have, since I began this journey of writing, I have not on any count gone off these prayerful ways of living life. You know, it's changed me completely. It was like taking darshan. I mean, in India, when you meet a saint, it's called taking darshan. I feel like I've taken darshan of Yesu, of Jesus, and of his entire family, and hearing firsthand the things that he's trying to portray to people, it changes you. You cannot hear these truths and not be changed by them. This book, for me personally, is not just a historical novel. This book crosses into the genre of spirituality and of self-help, which is a massive market. I don't think anybody who reads this book is not going to be changed by it. Did it change the dynamic in my family? Oh, well, I don't know if it's changed the dynamic in my family or not, but, you know, it's definitely, you know, I feel very tolerant of the difficulties that come up in family life, perhaps more so because of what I see them go through and how they handled it in their lives. Thank you for the question, Valerie.
Great question. I love it. I love it. And then there's another question from Valerie, and she asked, can you explain the choice of the book cover? And I saw more people asking about why the fox, and you know, there are some details, and I think for you it's really specific and it's exactly what you wanted, right? So I would love to hear you explain this too.
Well, the minute I saw it, I knew that was the book cover and the CD cover. It's painted by a fantastic artist in Los Angeles, Chi Yoshi. She does spiritual art. She uses the Magdalene a lot in her artwork. When I saw that image, it had the little fox on her shoulder. I have a dog that literally looks just like that little fox in that image. And so when and my dog traveled with me to England last summer when I wrote my book in those very, very haunted houses that I was staying in. And my little dog kept me company and kept me feeling secure at nighttime when I would have otherwise been afraid. So I feel like having a little dog on my shoulder on the picture of the book just felt it was completely aligned with how things had gone for me writing the book. Foxes represent wisdom. The butterfly represents transformation. She's holding a scepter in her hand. That makes her a warrior queen. She is ready to do battle, to bring the truth into the world, no matter what, at whatever cost, in order to save humanity from itself, to make positive changes in people's lives. So it's wonderful. I think it's a wonderful book cover.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for your explanation. Valerie, please let us know if that is clear for you, and if you have more questions, feel free to ask them here. Joseph Spencer says, thank you. Then we have Margaret. She asks, what was Jesus' blood type? I watched a documentary that said it was AB, but I always had the feeling it was O. And that one of the things he came here to do was refresh his bloodline with Mary and get it back into the world through his children.
Well, it's a very deep question. Rh negative is said to be the bloodline of the Jesus family. Of course, over 2,000 years, these family members have spread out and married outside of their bloodline, so it's been very mixed. As far as refreshing the world through his children or through his bloodlines in his family, it's a very deep question. Of course, if somebody came from that family and was enlightened and able to transmit this message of Jesus to the world, I think everybody would just massively support it. It would be like a Grail king, a King Arthur come back from the grave. We'd all be very happy with that. Mm-hmm. I think more important than the focus on the bloodline or on these, even the historical things around Jesus's life, the most important thing from all of this is, what did he come to the world to teach? What did Magdalene come to teach? Why did they bother to come to earth at all? Those are the things that are important, and those things have also been changed and held back from society. So, in my book, I'm really bringing these teachings beautifully into the English language in a way that anyone can understand. So I really feel like that's more of the focus, more of the purpose of the Jesus story than the bloodline. Now, of course, a king always has sons. So Jesus was a Davidic king and a Herodian king. He was the expected Messiah. He came to unite the world under one banner of love, no matter what faith or creed somebody follows. So, but his own personal bloodline heirs, of course, they were supposed to take the throne of David. They were supposed to become the future kings and queens. And they did in Europe. They became the kings and queens in France and in Spain and sometimes in England on and off. Some of them went into hiding, as in, the places up in Scotland, some of the families up there, they went into hiding. They were forced into hiding during the difficult times, the medieval times, especially, when they were burning anyone with red hair. They burned women with red hair because of the bloodline DNA of Magdalene. They were trying to block the truth of the bloodline family from the world because the church wanted total domination and power over the Grail story. They did not want any bloodline family coming forward and saying, well, I'm from the Jesus family, because they would come with the truth that Magdalene and Jesus were married, they were bloodline heirs. So then what's this other story? What's going on? And the church has been lying to us. It would take away all their power. So the church and the popes and the kings of history, especially in France, went to great lengths to wipe out the bloodline family. But of course, as with all things, it's not possible to kill everybody. And there are still bloodline heirs alive today. I've met a few of them. And, so yes, it's a fascinating subject.
Thanks. I love how you can get into these subjects so fast and you get lost. All right, you go there and it's amazing. So we have many more questions. So I'll help you a little bit to keep it short, because if not, then we will never be able to answer all the questions. Yeah. But it's amazing how you're doing it. Caroline came back to the last question that was not really clear. She says, "Yes, I am French from Quebec, and yes. If I can pray Mary Magdalene, does she do she will help and answer me. So you were understanding that right?
It's a huge question, because the nature of reincarnation is such that even the great saints in history, when they leave their bodies and they reincarnate into other worlds, into other lives, are they listening? This has been one of my questions. So I asked a friend of mine who is a saint in India, I asked him, what happens when people are praying to Mother Mary or to Mary Magdalene? They're praying with absolute sincerity to these deities. But what if those deities are already reincarnated back on earth or in other lifetimes? How are they then able to hear the prayers? Well, he answered very brilliantly. He said it doesn't matter where those specific people are hearing the prayers. The heavens, the angels, and the gods, and by their sincere prayer and their sincere efforts, they're getting the benefit no matter what. So that's my answer.
Nice, love it, love it, love it. Then we have Valerie asking, does the Magdalene line touch the Black Madonna trail in France?
Yes. Well, it's a very... Yes. I do actually really get into that in the book, Valerie. You're going to love it. There's a section where Jesus has survived the crucifixion. They have fled to France. And he is not satisfied just living a little country village life in the south of France with Magdalene and the kids and the family members. He needs more. He is the Messiah. So he yearns to go and search out for the lost tribes of Judea. And to do that, they must travel along the Silk Road. Along the Silk Road, they meet the Gypsies. Now, you have to remember the Silk Road was a passage between China and India and our European cultures that brought a mix of many cultures and spiritualities and faiths into a blend of things. Now, Kali, the deity of Kali Ma, is a Hindu deity. She is a goddess who was worshipped by the Gypsies at that time. When Mary Magdalene traveled along the Gypsy trail with Jesus and their child Sarah, of course, Sarah by then was already about 13 years old when they traveled along the Gypsy trail. She loved the Gypsies, and she would go and dance in their tents to their drumming and their kirtans and their singing, and she would dance long into the night, you know, with the Gypsies. And they worshipped Kali, the black deity. Now, over history, it got blended in with the Magdalene story of her, you know, being the Black Madonna. It all got mixed in, just like so many other things did in history. But Sarah was not Kali Ma. Sarah was not black, although she was, of course, you know, from a Palestinian area, so she may have been darker skinned. She was not a servant. She was the daughter of John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene. Because Magdalene was first married to John the Baptist because Jesus was in India at that time. When Jesus returned, John the Baptist was then beheaded. And by Judaic law, when your husband dies, you are then married off to the eldest brother. And as we know, John the Baptist was a miracle child who had no siblings. So the first living relative, the eldest living male relative, was Jesus. So Magdalene would have by law been married to Jesus, who was the love of her life from childhood. So that's how they got connected. But the child Sarah was actually from John the Baptist.
Perfect. I love it. Okay, so before I get into the next question, I would like to ask you to share about the book launch and everything, because probably most people that are looking right now pre-ordered your book, and I just wanted to give you some time to share your thoughts and everything that happened in the last few weeks, and yeah, so feel free.
You know, it's been very exciting. I honestly am just quite overwhelmed by how many people are ordering the book and are so excited and so enthusiastic about it. We now have 13 book publishers who are interested in publishing us, which is just wonderful, because when we began on this journey, I had no publishers interested. So it's going great. We're very excited. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, then we have Yancy, I'm sorry, I hope I'll pronounce it right. Yancy, Krishna, this is so true. When truth is put out there, it can't be denied. Jesus spoke truth, and Magdalene was able to understand and explain it to others. And bless you for bringing this to society. Now I feel there is an awakening happening, and that is why so many people are now thirsting for this information. So that's Yancy.
Yes, thank you.
Then Valerie is coming back with another question. Having daughters and many woman friends, including me, close to your heart, do you now see or experience the divine feminine alive in your encounters more? How does her story touch men lives?
Great story. Great question, Valerie. Of course, I am a goddess worshipper. I came to the path of Gaudiya Vaishnavism about 25 years ago, which is a goddess loving path. We are goddess worshippers. And it completely changed me. I feel like being connected to the divine feminine has empowered me and given me so much wisdom and so much grace in my life. And how that translates into men. Now that's a good one. I think it's a wonderful thing to see the divine feminine rising up in so many hearts of so many women, because over the last 2,000 years, we've been living in a male-dominated society where men mistreated and abused women en masse, where women were viewed as a point of their lust, of something that they could own, something they possess. And now that women are becoming strong and empowered by the divine feminine, men are learning how to honor women, how to honor the divine feminine inside of women. They listen to women, they admire women. They're not just seeing them as a sex object, something to just be enjoyed. They're now listening intently. What is the wisdom of this woman in my life? Because they see that the imbalance of the way that men are ruling the planet is just not working. I hope that answers it. I'm sure we'll have a chat about it soon, Valerie.
I love this answer, and I, as a man, can completely agree that we need more female leadership in this world, and that would make things easier, like by a lot.
You are a blessed male indeed.
Thank you. So next question is Colleen, and Colleen asks, did Magdalene and Jesus use different names as they traveled through different countries?
Certainly they did, and they had to in the beginning because they were fleeing persecution. They were very, very the family of Jesus was very protective over him after the crucifixion. He had survived a horrendous ordeal. And I mean, I don't want to reveal too much because it's inside of my book.
Then don't.
Spoiler alert. But yes, they do. Now, of course, Mary Magdalene, that was not Mary Magdalene's name. Mary Magdalene, that was never her birth name. So in my book, there are many names for Mary, but the title Mary was a title awarded to women of a certain status. They had to be a powerful woman who was seen by the entire community as being a spiritual leader, perhaps somebody of a great influence or wealth. They would be awarded with the title of Mary. It was not a name. So when you see in the Bible, Mary this, Mary that, Mary this, the reason is because these women were Marys. They were awarded women. So like you would say Lord such and such, or, Bhakti Vedanta, it's an award. It's an awarded name given to someone of status. So Mary is that. Magdalene was not her name. Magdalene was also something awarded to her by the heavens, I guess. It means that she was the watchtower. So if you imagine an ocean, and in the middle of an ocean, there's a tower with a great big light. This light tower is there to warn people of the impending doom. Magdalene is the voice of this. In my book, it is so clear that this is her big message to humanity, is I am speaking these things so that people avoid what is coming if they don't make the positive changes that need to be made internally and externally in their lives. So therefore, she is the Magdalene. She is the leader. She is the light tower. She is the warning bell. And she is the watcher over the flock of Jesus. I hope that answers your question.
I think it will.
Okay. Oh, yes. And Jesus. Now, of course, Jesus was not born as Jesus. You know, he was most likely born as Yeshua or Jeshua. I nickname him Jesu or Yesu in my book. He was in Persia. He was given the name Isha Masih, and Isha means supreme controller. Masih means Messiah. In Kashmir in India, he was awarded the title Yuz Asaf. Yuz, imagine Yuz sounds like Jesus. Jews. Yuz Asaf. Asaf means Messiah. And his tomb is there in Kashmir, facing east to south in a completely Muslim area of Kashmir. And I actually went to the tomb when I was a young girl. And now you can't get near it. Of course, it's surrounded by people with machine guns. But yes, definitely. They all used pseudonyms when they were traveling.
Nice, really clear. So one thing, let me see. Yvonne says, hi, I'm so looking forward to this book. I feel so connected to this. Thanks, Yvonne, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Then we have Sherry says, do you see the roles of priesters and priests, etc., the prophesied and prophets of old and emerging in this day?
Can you repeat to me what the question is?
Yeah.
Do I see
the roles of priestess and priests, etc., the prophesied and prophets of the old emerging in these days? So what the roles of the priests of these days? Where does it come from?
Well, I mean, you know, a priest or a priestess, their role, it's again, this is a loaded question for me. To be a spiritual guide for others is to be a priest or a priestess. I don't believe that that's something that has to be awarded through any church or temple or from anybody else. It's something that when one has journeyed inwardly and attained any level of realization that is of benefit to others, one can say that one is a priest or a priestess. It's not something where you have to artificially say, okay, I've now done this ritual, now my name is such and such, so now I'm a priestess. Or I went and took this seminary course, so now I'm a priestess. Because that's all cerebral, it's all external. What does it mean to be a guide for others? It means first you attain something for yourself, then you can help others. Otherwise, you can't help anyone. It's like blind leading the blind.
Love that answer. Sherry, I hope that is clear for you. I'm sorry, I'm not a native English speaker, so I have my challenges with some sentences. I'm doing my best. Okay, so the next question is Valerie. Again, I know the name Sarah means princess. In the south of France, Sarah is considered to be the patron saint of the gypsies.
Yes.
Is Sarah part of the Hebraic royal family as is Mary of Magdalene?
That's right. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I just see this one question here that I just want to answer real quick.
Oh, please do. Please do.
It says, do you touch on her gospel in your book? I can't see who wrote it, but it's a great question. Thank you. Okay, Mary Magdalene's gospel and many of the Gnostic gospels, they're so beautiful. They're so rich in understanding the life of Jesus and the ministry of Jesus, because they have not been changed by language, by kings, by popes, or by church over 2,000 years of history. So therefore, we can get to a more realistic picture of who Jesus was and what he was trying to communicate. Yes, indeed. I have used all of the Gnostic Gospels within my book to give a very clear picture as to what it is Jesus is communicating with the world. The Gospel of Mary is so cryptic in places that, you know, for my mind, when I was reading it, and I've read many different versions of each of these Gospels, they are cryptic, they are hard to follow, hard to understand, hard to take the teachings and churn it in your own soul and go, okay, I understand what they're saying, honestly. But somehow, by mercy of the Lord, I sat with Magdalene's Gospel for many months, many years, and in dream time and in my meditation, in my prayer time, it was given to me. I downloaded it, I wrote it, I sat there with Magdalene's Gospel and I wrote her words and I filled in the bits that were missing, and it just gelled. It brought to life 2,000-year-old words in a way that everyone is going to understand. Whether it's exactly what Magdalene was saying, of course I can't claim to do that, but it certainly feels that way. It's going to be a real eye-opener for a lot of people.
Amazing. That question was also from Valerie. She's on fire. Thanks for asking all these questions, Valerie. Then we have Joe says, hey, beautiful. I can't stay at work at the moment. Talk soon. Thanks, Joe, for sharing. Dave says, bless you, Krishna Rose, and your forthcoming book. Dave Roaster. Then we have Valerie asking, who was Joseph of Arimathea?
Arimathea. Okay. Well, Joseph of Arimathea, of course, is one of those characters that there really isn't very much history to study. So it's kind of left a bit of a guessing game. For me personally, in my book, now Mary Magdalene was orphaned. Her mother died giving birth to her. So Magdalene, oh, it's such a sad and beautiful story. I'm going to just let everybody just read it. But Joseph, in my book, I have Joseph Arimathea be her uncle for many reasons, because her father has also passed on. So all three, her and her two siblings, are orphaned. Joseph Arimathea in my book is just this wonderful fatherly type figure who just comforts them and guides them and protects the Jesus family. He's always there, taking them and caring for them and serving them in a way that they need, that allows Jesus to be protected and allows him to fulfill his mission. He is so dedicated to helping Jesus fulfill his mission. It's his number one thing. And he's sort of like he's like a beautiful Santa Claus type character in my book. You will really learn to love him. But in my book, I happen to be Magdalene's uncle. It just felt very right.
Awesome. Caroline Winder says, thank you for answering. Then we have Sherry says, thank you for answering my questions. I'm so very along the same lines. Blessed is your strength, belief, and love. I'm grateful. That is Sherry Blakeman. Then we have Colleen. So many thanks. So many like myself are magnetically drawn to you, Krishna Rose, and your mission. I feel this will awaken our own mission. Bless you. That's Colleen, Madonna.
Bless you too. Thank you.
Then Valerie is back with another question. Valerie asks, do you touch on a continued relationship with Jesus, Mother of the Blessed Mother?
Oh, very much so. Mother Mary is a beautiful, beautiful figure in this book. Magdalene has a very special relationship with her. She never knew her own mother. So Mother Mary has loved Magdalene since she was a very small child and sees her as her daughter. She wanted Magdalene to marry Jesus from very young. Their bloodline families of David and Benjamin intermarried for centuries before these two people came to earth. So their betrothal happened when they were very, very young, Magdalene and Jesus. But when Jesus turned 13, he was taken to be with one of the kings, one of the three kings who came at his birth. And he was taken to a place called Jagannath Puri in India to go and complete his studies. to prepare for being the Messiah. So these are the missing years of Christ. And during that time, of course, is the time when Magdalene would have been married off. But Jesus was gone and nobody knew when he was going to return. So that's why Magdalene's father married her to Jesus's cousin, John the Baptist, at that time. But upon his death, of course, then she was married off to her love eventually. So it's quite the love story.
Amazing. I can see it also in your eyes that you're going back through the story because you're still writing the book, right? And now you get all these questions and then you dive back into like what have you been doing for months. So amazing to see that.
The characters in my book are people that everyone is just, you're going to love these characters. They're so beautiful. All of them are so special. And yes, Mother Mary Keys, she's a massive figure in the book.
So for everyone who is also like joining this live session here and asking questions and listening to everything, feel free to also invite your friends. If you have people like family or friends that would also like to hear the story and what Krishna is writing about, feel free to invite all these people to this community and let's just talk together. We're not like we're really open to any discussion, and we really would like to hear everybody share what their thoughts are, and Krishna will share her research and her thoughts.
Indeed.
So then I have a question that came through email, and that question is: some people say that Jesus was a failed Messiah. Were there many prophets who came and went before and after Jesus? So what is your evidence that he was indeed the expected Messiah?
That's a great question. That excites me. Well, what is the evidence that Jesus was the Messiah? The evidence is obvious. That 2,000 years later, he is still the most talked about man in history, the talked about Jewish man in history. He fulfilled the prophecies of the Romans and of the Jewish people. The people who say he's a failed Messiah, it's a difficult thing. I'm not going to try to convince somebody into believing that Jesus is the Messiah. There's enough people who believe him to be the Messiah that's all that counts. And those that don't, God bless them. But the evidence is he fulfilled all the prophecies, starting from his birth. He fulfilled all of his prophecies. And I go through that in the book in great detail. He was so hell-bent on, he wanted to tick every box and be that person because he knew that he had to do that in order for his message to span the centuries. Therefore, he allowed them to crucify him, because if he hadn't have gone through that experience and raised himself from the dead, then people would have considered him to be a failed Messiah. Yes, there were so many failed Messiahs before him. I always feel sad and really kind of heartbroken to call someone a failed Messiah, because everyone should have the right to preach gloriously the glories of God in whatever faith that they're a part of. And to be vilified for that, or stoned to death, or killed, and then called a failed Messiah, it's a horrible thing to do to somebody. But yes, there were many failed Messiahs before Jesus. And many believed that Jesus was, in fact, a failed Messiah because when he fled Judea, of course, we didn't have the internet back then. So people didn't know where Jesus had gone, or that he was still living and continuing on his mission and fulfilled the prophecies. So many thought then that Jesus's elder brother James was, in fact, the Messiah. And he continued on the Jerusalem church when Jesus went off to France and carried on his life. But James himself was also martyred. He was stoned to death on the temple steps. So people didn't like messiahs very much, because they shine a light on people's ignorance, especially the leaders of society, and the leaders don't want the light shone on them.
Really clear answer. Thanks. Then we have Caroline asking, is Mary Magdalene's energy here amongst us now?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Oh, well, definitely. There's no question. Of course, Magdalene was squashed. Her title, her position, her beauty, her everything was squashed by the church over 2,000 years. But, you know, really, if you look at the last 40 years as an example, her name just keeps coming up for air. You cannot push Magdalene down. There is something about her that needs to be spoken and said. And I believe it's because there is a prophecy that when Magdalene is returned to her rightful place, which is at the side of Jesus as his wife and his bloodline bearer, his grail cup, that when that happens, the wars will cease and humanity will know peace for the first time in 2,000 years. So 100%, I feel the Magdalene's presence is very strong right now. And I'm hoping that my book will be a big shift for many people.
Awesome. Then Sherry Blakeman asked, what do you think about Jesus being a twin?
Okay, well, that's definitely an interesting one. And it's one that I did spend quite a lot of time looking into. So what she's referring to here is the fact that Didymus Thomas, who was a follower of Jesus, Thomas, they also known as Doubting Thomas, looked very similar to Jesus and was very similar to Jesus in his personality. So he was given the nickname Didymus, which means twin, because he was so like Jesus in so many ways. And Jesus was very confidential with him. They were very close friends. He did not have a physical birth twin, but he was like the closest brother to Jesus, even though he wasn't his earthly brother. Just like, you know, sometimes I have a friend who's like a sister to me, and we always joke, you know, she's my sister, but she's not really my sister, you know, by birth.
Clear. Really clear answer. Let me see what we have. Regarding failed Messiah, no other person has changed time. Sorry, there's some piece missing. Let's go to the next one. Is her spirit reincarnated now, born in 1969?
Well,
Caroline
you know,
asks.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I am not God. I cannot see who's taken birth and who has not taken birth on earth through all of the years. Do I feel that the family of Jesus is reincarnated on earth? 100% yes. I absolutely do believe it, and I know it to be true. I've had conversations with a very, very important personality, the Yuga Acharya of our age in India, who told me many years ago that Jesus has already reincarnated on earth. He gave me many clues as to where he is, and with him comes the family. So yes, I do believe they're here.
Amazing. Then we have Melissa saying, thank you for your books and your writing and everything you're speaking. I never felt comfortable with the story of Jesus is. Never felt comfortable with the story of Jesus is. It was as it was thought. For the first time, I feel that it is right. Thank you very much. That's Melissa Lodini. Let's get back to the questions we got from the email. We already almost at the 1 hour point. So then we have, who was Solomon? Solomon.
King Solomon.
Question.
You mean King Solomon?
I think so. I think this is this question came on Facebook. Who was Solomon? Probably King.
Solomon.
S-A-L-O-M-E.
Salmon. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. I can't answer.
Okay.
That's not my area.
Then the next question, was Mary Magdalene a temple-trained priestess?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, you know, there's been a lot of rumors about Mary Magdalene over the last 2,000 years. People have said many things in her name. So her, you know, the fact that she was said to have been a prostitute, first of all, was something that was tied to her name by the early church to set her aside and to set her children aside so the church could take control over the Jesus ministry. Was she a temple priestess? No, I don't believe she was a temple priestess. Absolutely not. She was a princess in the line of Benjamin. She was like a queen. She was extremely wealthy. in her own right. Was she a priestess? Definitely she was a priestess. A priestess or a priest, as I explained earlier, is somebody who has journeyed within, found some kind of treasure within the kingdom or within the kingdom of the spirit and brought it forth for the benefit of others. So yes, she was a priestess. Was she a priestess of the temple? That's a different thing. Being a priestess of the temple meant that you were basically a sexual, ritualistic priestess for the benefit of men. I do not believe that she was that, no.
I love the way you answer the questions, Krishna. Really clear. Don't make any mistakes. Okay. Let me see what we have here is
Salome.
Salome. Ah, okay.
There you go. Okay, Salome.
Salome.
Oh, you're going to love my book, whoever answered that question.
That is Carolyn Winter.
Salome was Jesus's sister. She was Mary's child, third child, Salome. In my book, Salome features in a major way. And I don't want to be a spoiler alert, so I'm not going to tell you the story of Salome because you really need to read the book because I can't do it justice in the next 5 minutes. She is a very important player in the story of Jesus and John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene. She was extremely close to the Magdalene. They were very close friends because she was the sister of Jesus. And I'm going to let you read the book to answer that question because it's too deep of a subject to just bring out in five minutes here. But
great. Okay, last question we're going to do is, was John the Baptist, where you just talked about, dead before the crucifixion or not?
Yes, John the Baptist, after Jesus returned from India, John the Baptist was at the height of his fame. That's when he baptized Jesus in the River Jordan. And not long after that, he was imprisoned, and the dance of Salome is what had him beheaded by the king. And why does the Magdalene, why is she always depicted in paintings with a skull of John the Baptist's head in her hand or at her feet? That is something you're going to have to read in my book.
Great. I love it. So that was the last question. We have more questions coming in, but it will be too much. I think we can do this for hours. I think for you, it's not a problem at all. So what I would like to ask everyone who's attending this live session, because we have been talking about like, hey, Krishna, I think this is what you should do and where you're really strong, like just be here around in the community, being live, answering questions, helping people around. So I would really love to hear in the comments below from people, like, what do you think? Do you like these live sessions? Are there other ideas that you have that we could do to make this community even more like growing and really active? So please let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you have any ideas, if you would like to do an interview with Krishna yourself, everything is open to any possibility. This community is here for everybody to share, and it's not that Krishna is the one that's like leading it. We have to do this all together. So that's the whole plan with this community. Any other questions? Please let us know in the comments below. Is there something you would like to share for the last few minutes, Krishna?
I just want to say to everyone how grateful I am for all of your kind words and your support and your prayers and your good wishes. And I pray for the Lord to be with you all and to bless you all in your lives with healing and with everything that you need to advance your soul out of the quagmire of this world as soon as possible. And I'm praying for all of those who need physical healing. I've had many requests for that, and I am indeed, praying for that for all of you who need it. And God bless all of you. God bless you.
Amazing. People are writing, so I'll write the last comments. In the meanwhile, can you take a look at the Be Live software, where there is somewhere a button at the right side where you can say stop it, because I have no access to your computer right now. So in the meanwhile, I'll start reading some comments that are coming in right now with people thanking you. Okay.
What do you want? First of all, at the end of this, you want me to hit end broadcast? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just want you to find the button so you will know where it is. Okay, so we have here Colleen saying, yes, live sessions are wonderful, bless you. Then we have Shanika saying, yes, I like it, as we are with you. Love this style, all family. Thanks for bringing this wisdom to earth. Then we have Caroline. Yes, this has been awesome. Mylene says, lovely to have listened to you, wonderful lady. Sherry says, much love and blessings, Krishna Rose. Then we have Melissa saying, thank you both for presenting this live. I can see a lot of what I read, but to be able to listen to the money session coming across from questions, I really have gotten so much out of it, and I look forward to more in the future. Thank you very much both, and blessings to you both. Melissa Lodeni. So that's it.
Lovely.
That was it for today.
Thank you all so much for your participation and your great questions. I just love all of you so much. And to Parsifal, my host, thank you. Let's do it again. God bless all of you.
Let's do it again. Thank you, Krishna, for doing this. And I wish you an amazing Saturday for today.
Thank you.
Click the button and then we will go offline.
Okie dokie. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the CFS Health Recovery Podcast. I am your host, Toby Morrison, and in today's episode, we sit down with Harrison Overall, 22-year-old male from Melbourne, Australia, suffering from post-COVID fatigue, post-viral fatigue, and chronic fatigue syndrome. And this man's journey has been an incredible one, a very unique one, as everyone's has been. And today we sit down and we talk about the trials and tribulations of recovery, what it's like for someone who's never had to experience hardship in their entire life with their family, with their friends, to then being struck down with something like chronic fatigue syndrome and not knowing what to do. You can imagine how hard this would have been for Harrison, but also you're going to hear the amazing story of coming out the other end and getting his health back. You'll hear all the things that he's up to these days. He shares some incredible insights and tips that are going to help you with your own health, your own life, and your own journey. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, it's Toby Morrison here, and on the other end of the screen is Harrison Overall. Yep, the name says it all, like literally overalls. Welcome, Harrison.
Thanks for having me.
Man, thank you so much for coming on. In today's conversation, we're really talking about recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome, which is kind of like a serious topic, but we're going to have fun with it today because your story is really incredible. Let's rewind the clock. Before you joined the program, just to give the viewers an understanding of what you were doing, where you're at, you know, at your lowest point, what was going on in Harrison's life?
I first got sick with COVID-19, like the 1st of January, I tested positive 2022. And then all my mates, because we went to a festival and all my mates tested positive. And, you know, you kind of think, it's just a cold, get over it. And then all my mates started getting better. And then I just kind of plateaued. I didn't really feel, I woke up every day, I describe it as feeling really kind of hungover and just so fatigued and exhausted. And I just felt so wiped out. Walking up the stairs, I'd just be puffed and just really bad physically like that. And then a couple months went past and I just wasn't improving. And I kind of still was in that mentality of, it will just get better. It will just get better. And then it didn't. So I went for a few blood tests and I had antibodies of glandular fever, Epstein-Barr virus in my system. So I would have gotten it probably around January, February 2022. And so that was really good to kind of get an answer, kind of like, okay, well, there's a reason why I'm feeling so shit. But then all the doctors, you know, a common theme that you guys speak about in this program is you go to kind of traditional doctors and some are really good and some they're quite dismissive and they'll be like, just rest 3 weeks, you'll be fine. And that's kind of the constant dialogue you get from the doctors. And I was believing that up until 3 or 4 weeks had passed and I was just plateauing. I wasn't getting better. It kind of got to June, July when I found you guys, when I was just like, I'd lost a lot of hope in terms of improving because I was like, well, I haven't improved. It's been 4 or 5 months. And around that time as well, I started to discover what chronic fatigue was because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac. So if I have any symptoms of anything, I'm straight on Google. It's not good.
Dr. Google.
Yeah, exactly. And in this circumstance, it actually did help because I was like, okay, I reckon it's post-viral fatigue or chronic fatigue and they're very similar. But then I found you guys and I watched a recovery video that you did with a guy called Blake.
Shout out to Blake. He's a legend. He's pretty similar to you, actually. Your stories are very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why it really resonated with me. The fact that he had kind of grown up in Melbourne like I have. And, he had played sport. He played footy. like I had it. And everything he was saying was just so, I was like, holy shit, you are like, I'm you when you were really bad. Like I just felt exactly how you're feeling right now. And it was just a real light bulb moment. And straight away, I just tried to get into the program. And lucky enough, about a week or two later, I was in. And fast forward a few months, it definitely got harder before it got easier. I think a lot of people who are experiencing chronic fatigue can kind of resonate with that. It's definitely not a linear progression. It's very up and down. And you also speak a lot about the type A personalities being quite prevalent in the program. I'm that to a T. So far in life, I've tried to do everything by the book. You know, I've done the good grades, I've gotten into a good uni, done the course you're meant to be doing, you know, like all this stuff, sport, eating really well. And that's what also I was really angry about is why is this happening to me? I've got mates who go out every night, get pissed and just abuse their bodies.
For the people in Europe right now, pissed means getting drunk, FYI.
Yeah, but yeah, so I've never been that type of person. I mean, I really like having fun and all that, but I've always been of the mindset of like in moderation, you know, watch what you eat, watch how frequently you drink, exercise all the time. Like I was so healthy up until I'd never really been in a doctor's room for more than a checkup really for my whole life. So this was really foreign to me and it was really hard to deal with at the time, you know, constantly going to doctor's offices and just kind of that mindset of like, I'm unwell. That was really foreign to me. And that was probably one of the hardest things to have to deal with, to kind of accept that I wasn't well. A lot of the time I couldn't really control the timeline on the recovery, but you know, that being said, I definitely still stuck to everything that the program taught me. And I learned a lot just about chronic fatigue in general, which I found really interesting. Yeah. And like, I think like, sorry, going back, there's been a bit of a tangent, but going back to what you were saying, like the lowest point, I think was my parents were great during this whole time. They were super supportive. It allowed me to kind of not work. So my job essentially was basically as healthy as possible. So I was really fortunate to have parents that allowed me to do that. But there was one time where my parents they were like, why aren't you better? And hearing that from your parents who's seen you in this journey was like, fuck, no one can relate to me. Like I felt so alone. And it's a very lonely thing to go through because you don't really know a lot of people who have been through this. Chronic fatigue was kind of a taboo topic. It's a lot better now with, you know, the prevalence of long COVID and things like that. But, you know, not many people spoke about it. And I really had to dive deep to find people who I could chat to about it. But yeah, that was probably the last point. That feeling of loneliness was really hard.
God, so many people relate. So many people relate to this because they're probably sitting home right now watching this going, that's me. My family don't understand. My spouse doesn't understand. My loved one doesn't understand. Did you feel that secondary depression and anxiety when you were constantly Googling things and like, fuck, what do I do next? Like,
yeah, well, I've always been a very anxious person, which I think feeds into a bit of the type A personality a bit. So when something like this happens, it definitely heightens my anxiety. And yeah, the depression definitely kind of resulted from the fatigue, but I never really kind of experienced that type of depression before. It was very secondary in terms of it was created by this, but the anxiety was the amount of times I'd spiral, like my mind would spiral out of control because, you know, I'd be thinking, shit, I'm never getting better. And like, what is the point at this point? You know, when you get that monologuing, spiraling self-talk, it is really hard to get out of that, to kind of dig yourself out of that. If you can find that kind of strength within you, it's very intrinsic, that strength. It's not going to come from any external sources, but it's really like, if you can find that, you look back, you know, once you recovered and it's kind of like you couldn't be prouder of yourself because you know that you've been to those kind of depths before and you've dragged yourself out of that. So that was something back on and really kind of admire about myself now. I had a few things that really helped me in those times. I found that allowing yourself to kind of embrace the sadness was really helpful. Naturally, I'm quite a pessimist. That was one of the things that I think I've really changed. Always putting a positive spin on things. Like I've actually noticed it kind of subconsciously that I have been really looking at things really positive. Like I tested positive on Christmas Day for COVID last year. Obviously I can mope and whine about it, but you know, I kind of twisted that into thinking, okay, well, if I can get through this, I've really kind of jumped that next hurdle of, because I was always really worried about getting sick with the flu, something like that. Totally. But, you know, I turned that into a positive and kind of, okay, I really dealt with that really well. Anyway, that's beside the point. But Yeah, the acceptance was really hard initially, and it takes time. And it's something that just kind of, you can't work on it by just trying to focus on it. Like, it's something that kind of just happens over time. That's what I found anyway. So yeah, like you said, I was really kind of trying to get back to my old self. And like, with my mental health over the years, I found exercise a great outlet, whether that be gym, running, footy, whatever. And the fact that I couldn't do it was really, really hard. And that was probably one of the hardest things I found. And knowing that getting back to exercise wouldn't look like it used to was really hard. It's a very long way back in terms of building up your aerobic base and lifting weight again. Like, I remember starting the exercise program in your program with Steph, and you know, that initially looked like me trying to bench press a pillow, and doing that was like really kind of demoralizing. And
yeah, I vaguely remember talking to you. I think you reached out on a coaching call and you were just like, you know, this is embarrassing. I used to be able to bench press whatever, you know, let's say 60, 80 kilos or whatever, and it's like, now I'm lifting a pillow. And I think I just said to you, yeah, you're doing that now so you can go and do the bench press later. Like, you've just got to start now. And it's all about consistency over an intensity. And everyone's different. You're coming from a sporty background, so understandably, this is a big deal for you. Whereas other members, you know, sport isn't their number one thing. So it's like, yeah, I just want to be functionally healthy and strong so I can function and integrate back into life. But for you, that's such an interesting turning point. But I felt like it clicked probably 3 months in when, and I don't know if you watched the acceptance video, or I don't know if it was a combination of trainings that helped you go, all right, I'm going to stop focusing on the past and just focus on what I can control.
Bang on. It was definitely that. Watching that acceptance video and just kind of really listening to a lot of podcasts. And I want to give a shout out to this guy called Hugh Van Cuylenberg. He's an Australian. I don't know if you know him, Toby.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I've found his content amazing. So he's written a book called The Resilience Project, and he's got a podcast called The Imperfects. And, you know, as I was starting to kind of build up capacity again, I'd be going on walks, very low Ks, like, you know, 1, 2 Ks, just very casual strolling. But, you know, on those walks, I'd be listening to the audio book of his book and also the podcast. And another person I think really helped me work through that acceptance was also a girl called Emma Murray. You might have heard her as well.
Yeah, Emma Murray's great. Yeah. Melbourne ladies too.
High performance mindset coach type of thing with a lot of sports people. But her content kind of, you related to yourself and your own struggles in life and anything like that. And it was really helpful with kind of accepting that, okay, I just need to sit in this, Emma used this word energy, like sit in this energy of like, okay, I'm here, and you just need to know that you just need to trust yourself that it's going to be okay. You know, you can't control what's going to happen tomorrow, but if you just keep chipping away, you'll get rewarded. That's what you also say as well. Like, you just kind of got to trust yourself. Like, motivation will wane and, you know, it will go as well. But like, if you can kind of find it within you, just keep that consistency. And like you say, consistency is key. And that's exactly what's been the pillar of me getting back to where I am now.
100%. And, you know, I have that saying, hit singles every single day, forget about home runs, you know. And if I look back through your journey, you know, when we worked together, you were just hitting the dailies every day. At the start, maybe you were looking for the home runs. You know, that's what we all do. It's natural. You settled in probably within 3 months, and then it was like, all right, I'm getting seriously serious on just the daily doings. And I feel like the motivation is your routine. It's like, what am I waking up for today? You know, what am I doing for myself today? And I noticed a big shift in your mindset, and it was like a commitment. You know, I wouldn't say it's motivation because, like you said, it comes and goes, but there was this undeniable commitment to yourself and